Hello everybody! Today I'm going to be teaching you how to draw a special work of art called a landscape. A landscape is a work of art that shows a scene. It could be in a city, so a urban scene, an urban landscape. It could be a rural landscape. It could be in the country. You'll need a pencil, an eraser, and a permanent marker or an outline pen. And you don't need all of these three ingredients. Even if you just have a pencil, you can do a lot with what you have, just one tool. All right? I'm going to draw a scene for you today with a ground line. I start with a ground line about a third of the way into my page. I'm going to draw my second ground line, or in this case, a water line down below. And in the distance, a second ground line. So I have a water line, a sandy rolling hill, and a further distant line behind. I'm going to be overlapping a palm tree's trunk, squiggling my lines to make the main part of the palm tree. As I'm going along, anything that overlaps or goes in front of my ground line, I'm erasing those overlapping lines. So in this case, I'm going to draw the main shape of the palm tree leaves by drawing what I like to call footballs or eye shapes. So as I'm drawing them, you have options to add more motion. You can draw sort of like a zigzag line in there, and you can change the way you draw your palm leaves. But I would love to see you at least incorporate an odd number. So see, I stopped at 5. I'm drawing 5 palm tree leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. From there, I'm going to add some smaller details. For example, the waves, the additional waves washing onto the shore. And I'm drawing it in a repeated motion to really emphasize that movement. I'm going to add something that's fallen and got buried in the sand, like this palm tree's coconut. And I'm going to add the little circles for the palm tree, although one is still on and attached. All right. From there, I'm going to change the way that I drew my background line. I don't want it to be so high up in my scene, so I made a change. I'm changing my mind, and I'm going to draw additional rolling sand dunes behind. In the distance, I'm going to draw another palm tree. This time I'm choosing to curve the lines differently and make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the sky, I'm going to include different kinds of clouds. I'm drawing these lightly in case I decide to erase them. I'm going to add some clouds. I'm thinking of them as mashed potato shapes with a flat section on their base. From there, I'm going to add some fine details, such as the little veins in this palm tree leaf, for example, or a bit of texture in the sand, perhaps a small seashell or two, maybe some bird feet in the sand because the seagulls have been flying around. And when I'm happy with my design, when I'm happy with my drawing and my plan, I then begin to think about what tool I would like to use to outline around all of the pencil lines. If it's a small pencil line, I really want to enjoy a really fine tipped pen or pencil gliding along the lines, tracing over those pencil lines. But on the other hand, if it's a larger part of the scene, part of the landscape, I would like to think about using a wider tipped marker like this one. This is my choice for outlining the main parts of my drawing. So I'm going to try to use this Sharpie marker and outline around, trace over the main parts. In yesterday's video, in the video where I taught you how to draw Charles Schulz's Snoopy character, I focused on making my traced lines more squiggly as I tried very carefully to go over top of them. In this case, I want you to notice that I'm really trying to focus my attention on going over something that I drew almost exactly. And yes, we will have mistakes here and there, but the best part about this is that you have a real great way of practicing going slow and careful to achieve a strong linear style and effect. A lot of my students ask me, Mr. Soto, you make everything look so easy. How is it that your drawings always turn out so well? And although that's flattering, I want to share with everyone watching that it took me a very long time to be able to draw something and continue it into completion that I was really, really proud of and happy with. And the way that I did get better over time was that I never spent one day without trying my best to practice a drawing and build up my skills. And yes, I know some of my illustrations are a bit more on the imaginative and kooky side of town. It's a little creative in that way. But I'm envisioning a dream scene. I'm not building this off of a place I visited, but a place that I created in my mind's eye. So I'm imagining a place, not a real place. I don't know what this beach would be called. I think it would be called Island of Adventure, Island of Creative Wonder. What would you name your island, your beach scene that you're drawing? I would love to hear what you would title yours. Okay, so as I'm drawing the smaller details, going over top, the one thing that I'm choosing to abandon the need to dot on every single grain of sand that I incorporated, I'm going a little more rogue in this aspect because I want this to look a little bit more playful and quirky. All right. So now I'm going to do a different approach here. I made some lines, and see in the shadow section, I'm still going to think of a way to show that there is a shadowed side to each main part. notice how I had mentioned, or remember how I mentioned earlier, that I would use a fine pen to do fine details and a wider pen to outline for the large shapes. I would not choose to incorporate and add all of those little lines in this tree, this palm tree back there, unless I have a fine tipped pen. In this case, I'm not doing that. So I'm going to ignore the small details in the distance because we really wouldn't have the ability to see small details in the palm tree of that far in the distance, all right? And I know that I wanted my sky to be really strong in the color choice for later, so I'm focusing on very small cloud shapes so I can play with a playful blended look to my background. And as I draw these clouds, yes, some of them might go in different places than I had originally planned, but I'm trying for a lot of them to go somewhat on top of the pencil lines that I had planned for originally and initially in the planning phase of this illustration. All right. And I want you to also pay attention to the fact that I'm not trying to add things like this. I'm not trying to add, oh, here's like a crab. I put so much effort into it. And here's a fish, and the fish is really happy, and he wants to say blub to the world. And here's a person relaxing on their beach blanket under an umbrella. See how I'm not really incorporating those clues that it's a beach scene, because I want the eyes to look directly at the landscape and enjoy what is happening in the natural scene, what's happening in this drawing of a place without people, without animals. And that's not the definition of a landscape, but in my illustration, in my drawing, I don't want anyone to be distracted by a silly addition such as any of this, because I would just get really sad and start to cry that I spent all that time and I decided to make it silly at the end. All right. So at this point, when you're happy with it, you can erase your drawing. That was all the underlayers with pencil. And you can begin to color it in. Now it's time to color in your illustration. And again, we're going to use the same technique as yesterday, the striping method, and I'm thinking of blending my colors together. So in each of my sections of my drawing, I'm thinking of incorporating and adding a light, a middle, and a darker green into each of the leaves, a medium, light, and dark color into each of the areas, the ocean, the sand, the sky. I'm blending in many, many layers of each part. So you can do this with crayons, you can do this with colored pencils, you can do this with markers, you can do this with an array of materials. No matter what you have, you can really transform each of the parts of your drawing and make them stand out from a distance, as well as give more of a detailed effect up close. So let's enjoy.